Dear Class 5 students, how are you all doing? I hope all is well. You are all welcome to Class 5. I'm sure many of you know my name. I am Mr. Labi. Many people call me Papa Labi. You are at liberty to call me Papa Labi. I will respond, but officially I am Mr. Labi, your Class 5 English teacher. So you are welcome. You are warmly welcome to Class 5. Without wasting much time, we are going to look at our first lesson in Class 5, which is oral literature. We are going to talk about oral literature. Now, somebody may ask what literature is at all. What is literature at all? I'm sure most of you might have heard the word literature somewhere. Literature has so many meanings. Many people have defined it in their own ways. Some authorities of literature have defined it in so many ways. But in simple terms, I mean to your level, for you to understand what literature is, I would like to put it very low for you. Someone will say that literature is a artistic writing, or if you like, a piece of writing that mirrors a person or a society at a given period of time. Any piece of writing, any artistic work that mirrors a person, that talks about people, that talks about culture, that talks about the society at a given period of time is what we call literature. I mean, in a very simple term. So literature has so many aspects, and literature is very, very, very interesting. Today, one of the aspects that we are going to look at very briefly is poems, poetry. I'm sure from nursery, KG, and the rest, we have all been reciting poem. A lion has a tail, it has a big head, and rhyming words and the rest. We have been saying them from nursery to KG, up to, the lower classes. So today we are going to look at poetry. Poetry, we are going to look at poetry, or if you like, poems. What is poem at all? Poem is a language. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Poetry is the use of language to express layers of meaning. Poem, somebody will define it in a very simple way, as I am doing, is the use of language to express layers of meaning. So if one is using poem to express layers of meaning, then the person is reciting a poem. So poem has its own way of going about it. It's very, very interesting. I mean, the way the words are couched, the way the words are used, is very, very interesting. Now, anytime you see a poem, you see that they are written in lines. First line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line. The lines come up together to make a stanza. So every poem has lines, and the lines come together to make a stanza. So, for example, in some poems, we have stanza 1, stanza 2, and maybe stanza 3. So every poem has lines, and the lines come up to make a stanza. I will ask you this, so don't forget. The lines of a poem come up to make a stanza. And as I said, we have so many stanzas in poems. Some poems have about 3 or 4 stanzas. Good. Now, the one who writes a poem, somebody will ask. So somebody who writes a poem, what's the name? Just like somebody who writes a play is a playwright. The one who writes a play is a playwright. Now, somebody who writes a poem is called a poet. The one who writes a poem is called a poet. Very good. So now we know what a poem is. Using language to express layers of meaning. And now we know that lines in poems come up to make a stanza. Good. Right. Now I'm going to do a very simple work today. Today my mission is very, very simple. I'm going to give you a poem. I'm going to read the poem with you at home. Or I'm going to read the poem for you. And I'm going to teach you 2 things today. I have 2 things to teach today. Good. Now let's look at this poem. Let's look at this poem. Now look at this poem. A very short, interesting poem here. Now the title of the poem is there, and we have a very short poem here. Now let's read together. If you're in the house, we can read together. The Table and the Chair. That is the title of my poem. Now I read. Set the chair to the table. Now you know we are not able. How foolish you talk. When you know we cannot talk, set the table with a sigh. It cannot do no harm to try. I have as many legs as you. Why can't we walk on two? This is a very short, simple poem. I'm going through it again. I have something to teach you right now looking at this poem. Okay, I read again. The table and the chair. Set the chair to the table. Now you know we are not able. How foolish you talk, when we know we cannot talk. Set the table with a sigh. It can do no harm to try. I have as many legs as you. Why cannot we walk on two? Now, what do you realize here? You realize that the ending words rhyme with each other. Look at the first line. What is the last word there? The last word is table. And look at the second line. The second line has an ending word, able. So table and able rhyme. In literature, if you say they rhyme, it means they sound the same. They have the same sound. They are different words, but they sound the same. So you could say that table and able rhyme. They rhyme, they sound together. Now let's go to the third and fourth line. The third and fourth line, we have the last word, talk, and also talk. You see that here we are very fortunate. We have two words which are the same, and you can easily tell that the two words rhyme. They sound together. Now let's go to the fifth and sixth lines. The fifth line ends in the word sigh, and the sixth line also learn in the word try. So you could see that sigh and try rhyme the same. They sound the same. Now let's go to the last two. The last two lines, the last but one line and the last line, we have you and two. You, two. You could see that the two words here also rhyme. And if I say rhyme, I mean they sound the same. Good. So what am I seeking to teach here? What I'm seeking to teach you here is that many poems have rhyming words. They have rhyming words. And if I say rhyming words, words which sound the same. So in this context, if I ask you to write the rhyming words of this short poem, what are you going to write? I am sure somebody is going to write table and able. If the person is able to do that, then the person is correct. So I'm going to leave that to you as your work. I'll put your work on the big blue button for you to do it. I'm going to ask you to write the rhyming words of this poem. Please don't put all the rhyming words together because they all don't rhyme the same. At least two of the words rhyme the same. So if I ask you to write the rhyming words, for example, the first rhyming words are table and able. So you write the rhyming words. We also have something we call the rhyming scheme. The rhyming scheme. What's the scheme of rhyming of this short poem? Now, as we did earlier, table and able rhyme. So if I want to write the scheme of it, table and able will be schemed as A. Or if you like AA. Table A, able A. That is the first rhyming scheme. The next rhyming scheme, talk and also talk, is the next rhyming scheme. So talk and talk is BB. Now, the next rhyming scheme, sigh and try, are also the next rhyming words, and they are the third, so CC. Then the last one, you and two, also rhyme, so DD. So now, I'm sure you know your rhyming words, and you also know the rhyming scheme. Beautiful. I don't want to, talk much. I don't want to do much, but all we have learned today is to know what literature is. An artistic piece of writing that mirrors a person or a society at a given period of time. We have also come down to one arm of literature, which is poetry, and we have defined what poetry is. We said poetry is a language that expresses layers of meaning. So we have also, learned what poetry is or what a poem is. And I told you that the one who writes a poem is a poet. And I also told you that poems are written in lines, and the lines come up together to make a stanza. So in a particular poem, you can get about 3 or 4 or 5 stanzas. Good. So we know what literature is. One arm of literature is poetry. We have known the definition of a poem. We have recited a poem. We have also learned rhyming words, words which sound the same, words which have the same sounds. So right now, if I ask you to write the rhyming words, I am sure somebody will start to write table and able as the first rhyming words. We have also learned the rhyming scheme. The scheme for the scheming, we use alphabet to number the rhyming words. For the rhyming scheme, we use alphabets starting from A to number the rhyming scheme. To number the rhyming words. So I give you an example that table and able rhyme. So if I am to give the scheme, I'll write table and able as AA. I'll put A in front of table and A beside table, and also A beside able. It means the two words rhyme. Then I'll go to the next lines. The last two words that rhyme, I'll term them as BB. Fourth and fifth, the words that rhyme, CC, just like that. Okay, so without much I do, we will come to an end of today's lesson. Today we have looked at literature, and we have also looked at what a poem is. So before I go, we are going to recite our poem again. We are going to recite our poem again, then we will call it a day. Now let's start to recite the poem together. The table and the chair. Set the chair to the table. Now you know we are not able. How foolish you talk, when you know we cannot walk. Set the table with a sigh. It can do no harm to try. I have said many legs. I have as many legs as you. Why can't you walk on two? Okay, so that is our poem for the day. I'll go through for the last time. I'll go through the poem for the last time. The table and the chair. Let's go through again. The table and the chair. Set the chair to the table. Now you know we are not able. How foolish you talk, when you know we cannot talk. Set the table with a sigh. It can do no harm to try. I have as many legs as you. Why cannot we walk on two? So that comes to the end of our lesson today. My name is Mr. Labi, your class 5 English teacher. And I say bye-bye. I will put some questions on what we have learned today on the big blue button. Go there, go to class 5 English lesson. I'll put some few exercises there. Please make sure you do the exercise and submit them, because I'll check them. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.